We're going to be welcomed with the Q&A by Mark, who is Candice's husband, right, and partner in crime. So Mark, please welcome to the stage. How about one more hand of applause for Candice? So they've got the most comfortable chairs for us today. We're going to go ahead and take a seat on these Tetris pieces. And if you have questions, feel free, like I said, they'll raise your hand. There's mic runners in the audience. We also can tweet your questions to 1MC4. I'll try to keep a handle on any questions that come in. And we're going to change things up a little bit. This week we're going to start with Dr. Wells with the first question.
Thank you, Candice. Can you outline for us what you think your typical customer looks like? Is this for large families, college roommates? What do you think your typical customer looks like?
So our typical customer is probably a family a lot like us. They have a lot of technology. We have streaming devices for our TVs. We have kids that all have devices. And we were overwhelmed with the management of all those devices in our home. We wanted just a really easy solution. So I think there's a lot of parents kind of in our age range that are facing the same challenges, and the current equipment out there just isn't fitting the needs.
All right, excellent. I've got a question. I guess you guys are based out of Minot. Give me an idea of what it's been like to build your product and get your company started here in North Dakota, and what are some of the advantages you've seen, and what are some of the challenges maybe you've had?
Well, talent is a big need for us. We've been trying to find locals to work with, building our product, and in the Minot community we have the college, and we've sourced with them. And getting the word out has been kind of a challenge for us, so we're so thankful that we're able to come to the 1 Million Cups and be able to get the feedback from the community. We're tech people and not marketing people, so this has been a huge, huge help to us.
Okay, great, excellent. Go ahead, raise your hand, tweet your questions in. I've got 3 little boys, and they're not quite at the age where they're like totally obsessed, but they're definitely borderline obsessed with devices and such. And I've learned anything from having kids, it's that they're incredibly smart and they can be incredibly evil. So what have you done to kind of kid-proof this so that there's no workarounds and backdoors? And have you had kids that have really hammered away at this to see if they can break it?
He's the really techie one, so I'll let him.
All right, hi everybody, I'm Mark. Sure. One of the reasons we're going into beta now is to get more feedback on what are the real world use cases, because we've thought of what we've thought of, but what have we not thought of, right? And that's obviously going to come up. We spend a lot of effort into making sure that our system cannot be bypassed. But when it is bypassed, our system is going to alert you to let you know that, hey, if your kid has tried to circumvent this feature and you've got that feature turned on, we're going to alert you as part of the app so that you know, hey, we couldn't handle that, but you might want to have a conversation about that.
Yeah, doing it at the hardware level is a lot more challenging for those smart kids. They'll try, but and that's one of the challenges, is because if you put parental controls on a cell phone, it's much more likely to be hacked so that they can get around it.
Okay, excellent. We got a question in back.
Yeah, I got a little brother who is always on his phone during the day, at night, and I haggle him all the time about it. And my question is, if you shut off his Wi-Fi at night, he's just going to go to his data plan. Is there something built into this app that can mitigate that, or is that something that has to be done through the provider settings, I guess?
That's something that we are working on. There's 2 options. One, we will be able to give parents instructions on how they can shut down the cellular option. And 2, we're hoping to eventually come out with a companion app that you can install on your children's device. Currently, we're trying to make it so it's not so intrusive. So basically, when you set this up at the hardware level, you don't really have to touch any of the other devices in your home to set the parental controls, which was the feature that we really wanted. But like you said, there's the challenge of the cellular data, and so we're looking to try to meet that need as well.
Great question, great question. You know, it's interesting, you guys are a married couple, you're building a business and a company. That can be a great thing, I'm sure. It can also represent challenges. How has that experience been? Kind of what's been the pros and cons of building a company as a married couple?
That answered it all.
I guess I'll start, of course. The hard is finding work and life balance, because now, so I left my full-time job in January to start, because I'm a programmer, and so I started programming. He's the network engineer, so when he would come home from work, the kids would go to bed, that's what we would do. And now we're both at home working full-time. Sometimes it's really hard to just shut off at like 5 p.m. and try to get into family life, and so I would say that's the biggest challenge right now, is finding that work-life balance.
And from my perspective, you know, it's not all roses. We'd like it to be, but part of growth in the process of building something valuable is the friction. So it's challenging because we have to have a friction between us where the ideas don't match up, and somebody has to win out. And in the scenario where it's just us two, there's no tiebreaker. So there can be battles.
We have
but
George.
You could thumb wrestle.
We could. Although he was like third runner-up, so I don't stand a chance. We do have another founder, George. He's actually in Anchorage, Alaska. So we kind of use him for a tiebreaker sometimes. So.
Very cool. Good, getting some good advice in there too, I think, for people. Up here.
Hi, Brian Cron. I love what you're doing. You weren't halfway through your presentation when I leaned over and I said, I want this. So I think you're on the right track, because we've got those same family problems. I've kind of got a two-part question though. The first one is sort of, isn't there somebody doing this? Because it sounds like what you've got is a special router combined with some software. And I've gotten into my router and put some restrictions on and so forth, but it doesn't work as slick as what you're talking about. But I'm surprised this isn't out there. I just hadn't had a chance to investigate. And the other part is, because you have a lot of these capabilities with some of these companies like Cisco or Netgear or Apple, aren't you afraid of you open this door and they quickly just come out and give something just like it?
So there is competition, definitely, but for what we're doing, the only one that really compares is called Torch, and they had a Kickstarter campaign of, about 6 months ago. And so we started a year ago, so when we were looking, there wasn't really anything except making all those settings in your current router, which is a nightmare. And so Torch is actually building their own equipment, and so we were able to find a piece of equipment that worked for us currently, and we were able to write our platform built on top of that. Now in the last couple of months, we've seen Euro and Luma coming out, and they're doing similar things, but still not really trying to make it super easy to just set it and forget it, bedtime blocker. Once we have bedtime blocker on, we don't have to mess with it, and we are working on a patent for some of our technology, so I'll let Mark talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess our take that's a little different than the competition's, from my perspective, is that we really want to inform you in a way that's meaningful to you. And I think lots of other competitors are offering the ability for you to go seek the info, right? If you know what you're looking for, you go into their UI and you can find the info that you're looking for. We believe there's a lot of people out there that don't know why things break. Why does the internet get slow? Why is my kid bypassing this feature that I thought was working? So based on that premise, our goal is to target doing a better job informing you of what's going on, and not having you poll us to say, hey, what's broke? We want to have alerts that tell you what's going on.
Thank you.
A little bit about some of the optimization things we do are unique, and so we're actually pursuing patents on that piece of technology. There are ways that routers do things for bandwidth, but it's based on what kind of traffic, and we're really doing it based on like who your users are, what are the kind of devices you're using. If you're streaming from an Apple TV, you're gonna want traffic to go to that versus, you know, your kid loading Facebook. So that kind of stuff is gonna be kind of unique to us.
All right, excellent. We got one question from Twitter came in. John asks, once you stop the internet, what about the games that are on their devices? So I suppose if it happens in the middle of it, I know what happens.
Sorry, that question is if you stop.
Yeah.
If you
once you
pause
pause the internet, and if there's a game in progress or perhaps paused, what does it like crash everything for them? Or I suppose it's game dependent on what they're doing at the time, I would imagine.
Yes, our implementation today would immediately stop any traffic for that user, and so that user, depending on how you paused it, right? We have a pause button globally at the home screen. Then you could do it per user, so it would cycle through and pause all other devices, or you could select just hey, I need the Xbox to be off because it's dinner time and kids aren't listening. So today's implementation does just shut it down. You say stop, it stops. If there's value or use in saying, hey, finish up this conversation, this flow of whatever traffic is going right now, we could look into implementing that, but there's no plans at this time to do that.
So if I'm in the middle of like catching a Pikachu on Pokemon Go, like that's just gonna.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm surprised I knew what a Pikachu was. I've never played it before, but it sounds really fun. Any other questions in the audience? Right here.
Yes. I work for USDA Rural Development, and I just want you to know that if you want to have a nice Shark Tank, sit down with a lot of funding sources at one table, we provide that with USDA Rural Development, SBA, Bank of North Dakota, etc. So just to throw that out there, okay? And then I want you to know that Job Service North Dakota has money they're looking for employers to give this money to so that they will train 18 to 24-year-olds on how to do a job, so they'll subsidize your wages to that 18 to 24-year-old, and they can't find enough employers to do that. And just to comment, you mentioned your main competitors are Touch, Euro, and Luma, or Torch. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember those names. And not to diss you, but I would have a hard time remembering your name. Just to throw that out there.
Yeah, we struggled with the name when we first started. We had Networked Family because that kind of what made sense for us, and went through some different iterations. But we couldn't find that we could trademark that, so we adjusted to Aerēz, and we were trying to make the connection of like air, easy, but I don't know, we're struggling.
In addition, the landing on Aerēz, our last name is Perea, and if that's spelled backwards, it's A-E-R-E-P, and our other founder is George Zarevsky, so we took the Z from his name, and so it's got a little bit of a personal touch to the name, but we recognize that it doesn't have a complete fit for being memorable.
I don't think Google was memorable the day they came out either, but they may have made that work. So how about right here?
Yeah, I can have a couple questions as well. One being, say the buy into the product, is it a per router type charge? Say, hey, I got one in the garage, a couple in the house. How's that kind of look to get into that piece? Then the other part is, with the apps, you start to see analytics and understanding the traffic on your network. How much transparency do you kind of want to? All right, I understand that Timmy's doing this from this to this time, and that's something we plan on doing. What does it involve right away? Just things along those lines.
So if I understand the question right, the first part is what's our pricing model, and we intend to have two versions, right? Different people have different needs, and so we've got a base model that we intend to charge $99 for, with a $10 a month subscription after some grace period, and that's because, like I say, under the hood, we're doing a lot of work to make sure that your connection is great. We're going to continually be upgrading features, we're taking care of your firmware updates, and we're making sure that this thing's running solid. just has bigger hardware. There's no additional features other than, you know, super fancy radio and higher speeds and throughputs. So that model we expect to cost $199. And then the second part of the question again was,
Well, it's the analytics, understanding the traffic on the network. How much do you want, say, the parent or the admin on the app to know, not know?
yeah. So our current ideas are, or what's implemented now is that, you know, today you might want to know when what your kid's search history has been, and so and what sites they visited that day. Today, if you don't have a parental control solution in place, you go to their PC or their phone, you take it from them, you try and do it on the sly, and you look at what their browser history is, or what other methods you do to look for that detail. Because we're in line, right? We sit in the middle. That means we're able to just take that info and display it to the administrator of the network.
So yeah, we're currently working on what we call insights, and going to be able to show a history of what the device has been online, and also to do some charting to kind of give you an idea. As a parent, I want to know how many hours has my kid been on League of Legends, because if he's been on there for 8 hours, you know, I'm not doing my job. So we want to make it informative as well. So we're working on the charts and graphs to kind of give parents just a snapshot of what their kids have been doing on their devices.
Right, maybe along with that, if you want to know when your kid has spent more than 2 hours on League of Legends or Facebook, you know, you'll be able to set that as a trigger, so then you'll get that alert.
Awesome. So we're gonna go to our last question in just a bit. I guess I've got one closing question before we go to our ceremonial last question. You spoke at Bismarck Million Cups like a month ago, I understand, and at that point you weren't ready to launch a beta. You weren't even sure what to say about how we can help with our next question. You've come a long ways in a short time frame. So you've got obviously a really great execution. You're moving forward fast. But if you pause for a minute, what are you thinking 1 year, 2 year, 3 years down the road? Have you guys really started to think long term? Or are you so focused right now on beta that your head's down there? Or what's kind of the long term vision, if you can share that?
Kind of both. We're kind of just really focused on beta right now. We're collaborating with some really great people who are in Fargo. And so they're helping us to kind of focus our marketing and where we are moving. So, you know, after beta launch, we are looking at a possible Kickstarter campaign before the end of the year. So it's kind of as far out as we have gone, other than to say we see opportunities to take this to schools and libraries. So, you know, hopefully after we get past our public launch, there'll be other opportunities for us.
Awesome. Very good. All right, we'll go to our last question right here.
So what can we do as a community to support you?
Well, I hope that that everybody has a decent grasp on it. If you don't have an idea of what we're doing, or something doesn't make sense to you, or if things do speak to you, I hope you'll go to Aerēz.net, and you know, we've got a live chat button there. Just click on that and let us know what your feedback is. That would be awesome. In addition, we just launched our beta this week, starting Monday. So I should say beta sign up. So I hope everyone interested will, you know, like us, share us, and join in the beta program, and just sign up and generate some interest.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add, Candice?
Just would love your feedback. Even on this is my very first presentation, by the way. So
You nailed it.
Oh, thanks. But if you have any feedback or tips on what you think would help with the presentation, I would love to hear that too. So, thank you.
All right, let's give them a big hand. Thanks so much.